I went to Alex and Leila Hormozi's scaling workshop and I learned so much while I was there. So I decided to create an episode all about it, sharing it from the perspective of podcasting, what I learned, and what you can take away from this as well. Welcome to the Podcast Cafe, where we're serving up everything you need to know about podcasting, from tips, stories, and strategies for podcasters from podcasters. I'm your host, Haley Hayhurst, the founder of Espresso Podcast Production, a full-service podcast agency helping business owners, creatives, and thought leaders launch and grow their shows. Whether you're just starting out or want to take your podcast to the next level, this is the place for you. Each week, we'll dive into practical tips, actionable strategies, and of course, stories from other podcasters so that you can build up a podcast that you love and that works for your business. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's get started. Welcome to the Podcast Cafe. Welcome back to another episode. My name is Haley Hayhurst, your host. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll notice I'm not in my normal space. It's because I was at Alex and Leila Hormozi's scaling workshop here in Las Vegas, and I learned so much over the 2 days. It was crazy. I was a little skeptical to go because of the price, but I absolutely love everything that Alex and Leila put out on social media, their marketing strategies, their offers. I read Alex's books and learned so much from just his audiobooks that I was listening to free on Spotify. And also Layla's YouTube videos. I am a true fan and watch almost every one. So I decided if I'm learning that much from them for free, what can I learn from them by paying and being a part of their scaling workshop? And I'm so glad that I went because I'm going to share my key takeaways from the 2 days and put this all into action in my business, Espresso Podcast Production. Okay, so my first takeaway that it shook me from the moment I walked in the room was how successful entrepreneurship can be. I don't exactly know how many people there were, but I'd say around 100, maybe more, maybe less, somewhere around there. It was an overwhelming 2 days, I will say. But the number one thing that I noticed right by walking in was how successful entrepreneurship can be. Because I'm successful in entrepreneurship, but not at the level that some of these entrepreneurs were. People there made so much money and had the coolest ideas, everything from owning a beauty school to matchmaking to finances to plumbers to flooring to roofers to online marketing professionals. I didn't meet any other podcast producers during my time there, but a lot of people did have podcasts or were talking to me about starting their podcast. So just there were so many successful people in the room. For instance, the man that was sitting next to me, his company made 12 million a year. Someone that I met made 30 million a year. A lot of the entrepreneurs in the room had incomes of over a million a year. So that was a little intimidating, but I do love putting myself in rooms where I'm not sure what's going on and everyone is a lot more ahead of me. I think that it's very inspiring to see. So if you're on your entrepreneurial journey, just know that anything is possible. You could make $1 million a year, you could make $20 million a year, 30 million. Literally, it's just so inspiring to see. And also, they're just normal people, right? So like the woman I met making 30 million a year, she was just a normal person. I talked to her, she was so sweet. So that was my first takeaway from the event. Intimidating at first, but inspiring in the end. Also on day one thing that they talked about, and this is my second takeaway, is risks that businesses can have. So you could make $100,000 a year and be very profitable, but you could also make $100 million a year and be in debt, right? We've all heard this story of, you know, it's all about how you spend it and how you make your money and how you use it that makes you successful, correct? So we talked all about the risks that you could have in your business, and the one that stuck out to me the most in terms of podcasting and what a lot of entrepreneurs need to know is what's called single channel risk. So, what I mean by this and what they were explaining is there's a lot of cases where we get our clients from all one source, whether that be social media such as Instagram. Let's say every single client we get comes from Instagram. For my instance, I get clients a lot from referrals. So if I had one client that was referring me to all my new clients and that one client left, then where would my leads come from, right? So if you get all of your clients from Instagram and Instagram shuts down, where are leads coming from? If you got all of your clients from one referral partner and that referral partner stops referring you people, how are you going to get leads after that? Same with your podcast, same with Facebook, same with anything. Let's say you go to one networking group and you sign everyone, and then who are you going to sign after that, right? So, single channel risk is something that I see a lot of entrepreneurs have in this online space, and I haven't had the word to actually use it until this event. So, what I was talking to a lot of people about and what they were talking about on stage was how to avoid this. So, for one instance, it could be starting a podcast. Let's say you get all of your clients from Instagram or all of your clients from a referral partner. You want to diversify this a little bit, and a podcast is such a good way to do it because not only are you going to be tapping into a new audience, you can have guests and tap into their audience. And now people can find you from multiple different channels, come to your podcast, and become your client. So you can still get clients from Instagram or wherever else you're getting clients from now, but adding a second channel, such as a podcast, really diversifies where the leads are coming from and reduces that risk. That way, you have multiple sources and leads coming through, and you don't have to rely so heavily on one place. Another place where this is useful, and you don't even have to have a podcast for this one, but so on the second day, we broke into small groups, and someone had a question about how they can get more leads, but they don't want to start a new podcast or even start a new channel because they're new and like they're overwhelmed at the start of it. And how are they going to manage new channels without increasing their stress level? And what the person that we were speaking to on the acquisition.com team was actually be a guest on podcasts because then you kind of get the same sort of experience without having to manage your own. So they said having your own podcast is always better, but if you're overwhelmed, obviously being a guest on other people's podcasts is great. And even on top of that, having your own and being a guest is really where the magic happens. And in the same vein, in the world of podcasting, so, what a lot of the entrepreneurs, and this is my third takeaway I think we're at, a lot of the most successful entrepreneurs in the room were buying ads, and that's really how they are growing their businesses so fast. If you look at anything that Alex and Layla create, anything the acquisition.com creates, it's all about ads. That's really where they're making the most income, is the money they get back from ads. And there's multiple different ways that you can buy ads, Facebook, Google, all the different places, Meta. But one thing that really stuck out to me was one of them saying that buying ads on podcasts is actually a really smart idea because most podcasts, and if you don't know, I'll probably do another episode about this, about the different ads that you can run. Some are baked in and then, embedded, and then some are dynamic. So if you're buying embedded ads, like those baked in ads, so those are the ads that are actually in the episode. This is a little high level in podcasting, but there's episodes that, the editor will plug in the commercial and it will never change. And so they say those are really the smart ones to buy because then even if you bought this podcast ad 3 years ago, people will still go and listen to that episode and hear your ad. So dynamic ads are also great. These are where they can change. If you listen to anything like Normal Gossip or those big podcasts, they use dynamic ads because they really like can shift them around even after the episode is published. They leave a space where this online tool can plug in some commercials and change them out sporadically. They were saying that the embedded slash baked in ads are smart if you're looking to spend some ad money. Go find a podcast that you know your ideal audience would be listening to and buy a spot in there, because then you people can find it for forever and ever. And obviously with this, don't do anything like a limited time ad. Always make these ads evergreen. Okay, now my takeaway number 4. I got to ask Leila Hormozi a question. How exciting is that? So, in my business, Espresso Podcast Production, I am scaling and I am growing and I am bringing on team members to help me with various things. So, my question to her was, how do I add to my team and still give my clients great experiences and kind of control what's going on with everything? And it's one of the biggest reasons why I haven't hired out so far, is because I am worried about, you know, what if things change? What if blah, blah, blah? And her response to me was so good. She goes, "What is control costing you?" So for me, I took that away as control is costing me the ability to help more women start their podcasts, help more mission-based brands start their podcasts, help more people get their voice out there, and really support them through their podcasting journey. So the control I'm having over these small, minute details of my business is costing me the ability to help more people share their voice. And that just like blew my mind, because in a lot of our businesses, we do have control problems. This is what we do. We started this, we've been in control over the whole thing. And then all of a sudden, we're like, okay, I think it might be time to outsource something. And it's scary. And so if you're at that spot, think about what Layla said to me. What is control costing you? For a lot of entrepreneurs, it could be having someone help you with your email marketing, having someone help you with social media, or having someone edit your podcast for you and write the show notes and create the graphics. It might even go as far as having someone post for you. I have an offer where it's kind of social media management for the podcast. So we'll grow your podcast channel. And that is so helpful for a lot of people. But one of the most common objections I get to anyone wanting to, have someone help them start their podcast or have someone edit their podcast is the control aspect of, I'm a control freak. I want to be able to make sure that every little thing is where I want it to be. Perfect. That's what I do too, right? And so when I edit your podcast, I listen to what will make good edits. I'll edit out those things you don't want to be there, edit out those filler words, edit out anything that I don't think your audience would really benefit from, and just make it a clean and crisp product. That's what my job is. That's what you can outsource to me and make it so easy for yourself, where all you have to do is record, give me a great recording, and then I can make a great product from it, post it, write show notes, get it out into the world and into people's ears. That's the spot that a lot of people are objecting to. They want that control over it. But really, your job is creating that great content. You can outsource the editing work, the show notes, all of that. I also help my clients come up with topics. So if you don't want anyone helping you with your podcast, you might run into a wall of like, okay, what do I post? What do I do? Is this even good? And that's what I support you with through the strategy planning of podcasting. So that was a big takeaway for me, and I wanted to share that with you because my mind was blown when she said that. And I was like, control is costing me so much. And I know for, like I said, a lot of entrepreneurs, control is costing you a lot too. Okay, and my takeaway number 5 is all about marketing. So this was during one of our roundtables, and we were talking about top of funnel, lead magnets, cheat sheets, all of those things that really you will see first before you buy from someone. And so there was a lot that I took away from creating great free resources that will then lead to people trusting you and paying you more, right? Or even paying you at all. Or one of the things before we get into this, actually, Alex did a presentation of People think of it as a funnel, like a sideways funnel. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see my hands. So the big part of the funnel is where you're just getting your name out there. You're getting people to know who you are and what you do. And then as the funnel gets smaller and the end goal is sales, people will drop off one by one, but people will make it to that sales funnel. And at that point, too many people try to build trust and authority in the very end. So this whole time they might be like, "Oh, we're so good. We're so good. We could like for me, I could start your podcast. I can make all these things happen for you." But it's not until the very end where I give you the details about how it will actually impact your business and how it will actually impact, give you the results that you want. So he's saying that you need to be building that trust and authority throughout the entire funnel. That way, when it comes to the sale, or when it comes to whatever it is. I mean, I'm talking to a lot of entrepreneurs on this podcast, so you know what I mean. Like when people get to your sale, you should have already handled their objections in your marketing. That way, when they get to you on that sales call, they are almost ready to buy. Maybe you have to answer a couple questions, but their trust in you is already there. So, in the roundtable that we talked about with someone on the acquisition team, this was really interesting. He said, no one is going to be pissed off if you give them more value. This is where I told him about what I do with podcasting, and he was like, yes, so smart because you will be building trust every single week with your audience. So making sure that the topics, I'm speaking to you now. He didn't say this, but like making sure that your podcast topics are aligned, actually going to help your audience, making sure that they're valuable. They're not just like episodes to put out episodes. Making sure that every week you actually are impacting your audience is going to make a huge difference in getting people from point A, just knowing who you are, to point, Z of working with you, right? So that's what he said. No one is going to be pissed if you give them more value. Very smart. And so that was my next takeaway. My sixth takeaway was from another person on the acquisition team, and he said, grow consistently, not faster, because it's easier to go up than wide. So think about that for a second, because it is easier to grow consistently than, in one year being like, I'm hitting $10 million, right? There's a lot of trial and error goes into it. So if you want to hit $10 million, maybe that takes you 5 years, right? That's okay because it's easier to go up than wide. And so, what I think about in that is as entrepreneurs, we have multiple different passions. And when you go wide, you might try to cover too wide of a topic. You might try to help people with something, but you also might try to do it for them. You might try to cover an adjacent topic. I see this a lot in the podcast world because let's say your podcast is about marketing and sales, and then one week you want to talk about something totally different. Stay focused, like stay focused. Another thing that was talked about from a different speaker from acquisition.com team in our small groups was do more, do better, and then do new. So instead of offering something new, max out what you can do currently by doing it more and better. So, for instance, if you are talking about sales and marketing, but you also want to talk about gardening, maybe that's a whole different podcast. And don't try to combine the two. Do more of sales and marketing, do sales and marketing better, and then, the topic before you try anything new. So, very different, topics in there, but I think that gets the point across of focus on what you know, focus on what your topic is before you even try to introduce anything additional into your audience because they'll just get confused. You'll get confused, they'll get confused, we'll all be confused. Pretty much every speaker from the small group, that's what they said. Just do more, do better before you do new. And the last takeaway I want to share before I wrap up is more about the aspect of just going after it and doing what you really want to do. What I took away from this weekend is really you can be successful in anything that you want. I met so many different people in so many different aspects of entrepreneurship who were all successful. So If you think that you have an idea and you really are just not sure if you should go for it, my advice to you, and I'm sure what their advice to you would be, is to actually take that action and go for it. We're all betting on ourselves. None of us know if we're going to make it, but I can tell you from what I saw in that room and what I've seen in my past 4 years of entrepreneurship is if you take the action, you will get the result that you want. And it's beautiful and it's crazy, but it will happen. You may need to hire some people along the way to get you where you want to be. One of the things that Layla said was it's easier in the short form to do it all yourself, but it's not scalable. So if you want what you're doing to reach more people, be more scalable, help more people, have a bigger impact, you may need to be open to hiring, spending money, and getting support in your actions. You know, Alex and Layla, they're not doing it alone. They have big teams. Every single person that we spoke to from the acquisition.com team, I'm sure they have people helping them, supporting them. They're all directors, so I'm sure that they have people under them supporting what they're doing. So it's just all a level of getting help from the people that you need help from and actually being confident in what you're trying to do to be successful. If you always have a way out or a plan B, then it's hard to go all in on plan A. So really just take that action, make it happen, and follow your dreams of what you really want to succeed. And my last piece of advice to you is if you need a place to connect with more people in business, more entrepreneurs, more ideal clients, start your podcast. That's really my advice to you because through podcasting, I've been able to meet hundreds of people. I've been able to interview them, and then we network, and then we just become friends in the online world and can help each other, support each other. Podcasting is the number one thing that has grown my business, and I know it can for you too. So if you have any questions about anything I talked about today, if you're thinking of going to Alex and Layla's event, definitely message me. I'd love to tell you a little bit more. And also, if you want to start your podcast, I would love to support you on that journey. I have a podcast launch checklist that you can steal from me for free. It's on my website, espressopodcastproduction.com/checklist. And you can also just message me on Instagram or send me an email and tell me you want to start your podcast and we can make it happen. It takes only about a month to start podcasting. So, today is the last day of 2024. By February, you could have a podcast. Really, I think 2025 is going to be a big year in people starting more podcasts because of everything I said today. And really, the combination of being able to have guests on your show and being able to have solo episodes where you can do a lot of thought leadership, that is key going into 2025. I know it already. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and if you have any questions, you know where to find me. All my links are in the show notes. I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for joining me in the Podcast Cafe. I hope you're leaving with fresh ideas and inspiration to take your podcast to the next level. Remember, podcasting is a journey and you don't have to do it alone. I'm here to help you every step of the way. Let's connect. Be sure you follow me on Instagram at Espresso Podcast Production or visit espressopodcastproduction.com for more tips, resources, and behind-the-scenes insights. I'd love to hear about your podcasting journey. If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling extra generous, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps more podcasters just like you find the show. Until next time, grab your coffee, keep creating, and I'll see you back here in the Podcast Cafe.